And it was good that the chief priests were perplexed. And it's also good when we face times of uncertainty in our own lives. Sometimes God desires for us to face times of uncertainty. There are seasons where God desires that we don't have all the answers. There are seasons where God has us face something that was unexpected. And times of uncertainty can provide us with the worst of feelings. We can be filled with worry, anxiety, and stress, all of which I'm sure the Sanhedrin were feeling here. I'm sure they were anxious, I'm sure they were worried, and I'm sure that they were stressed out. And I can tell you today that Madison and I have been there time and time and time and time and time again. We've been through times of uncertainty pretty recently. We had things that were not expected hit us, and we didn't know what to do. And these moments don't feel good. These moments can cause us to lose sleep. These moments can cause us to say and do things that we regret. But what should we do in times of uncertainty? How do we process unexpected chaos? How do we respond to times of confusion? We must do this when we face times of uncertainty. We must surrender to God fully. Times of uncertainty should cause us to realize that we don't have all the answers. And they should cause us to surrender to God and to turn to the truth. And as we see in the passage today, these religious leaders were perplexed and wondered what would come of this. And what we see is that in the midst of this uncertainty, the Sanhedrin did not want to turn to the truth. The Sanhedrin did not want to surrender to the Lord. The Sanhedrin would continue to do everything they could to avoid the truth that was plainly in front of them and to continue to try to live their lives in their bliss of ignorance. They refused to surrender to the Lord. They were too prideful. They felt like they had all the answers, and we must learn from this and know that when we face times like the Sanhedrin, where we don't know what to do, or we face situations and wonder what will come of this, the best thing we can do is to surrender to God. And we can know this: when we surrender to the Lord, He will be near. Psalms 145 verse 18 says, "The Lord is near all who call out to Him." All who call out to Him with integrity. And the great Charles Spurgeon once said, "God is near, therefore hope is near." In your life, if you are in a season of uncertainty, I want to implore you today to surrender to God. Don't try to take control of every situation like the Sanhedrin. Don't act like you have all the answers. There is no hope when we trust in ourselves. I want to remind each of us that in our surrender to God, that God is near and therefore hope is near. And if the Sanhedrin, if they just would have surrendered to God, they would have been filled with hope. They would have seen what was happening directly in front of them, that God was moving amongst His people and saving people and healing people and doing a mighty work. But no, they chose to take matters into their own hands, and it eventually led to their destruction.